Hello, and welcome to another edition of Grown Folks Business on a awesome, and I mean an awesome Thursday. It was like very warm and very beautiful out today after all of the rain and mess of yesterday and driving in the cloud this morning because of all of the fog that was left over. It turned out to be a gorgeous day, and I hope you got outside and enjoyed some of it. I got the opportunity to. It was a work walk. I strongly advise those take work walks when you can. There's nothing like it. You are productive and you're getting a little exercise at the same time. So, yeah, I support work walking. So do that. Good to see some familiar faces in the place, and I just am grateful that anybody shows up sometimes, and I'm glad it's you two today. Bob, thanks for sliding back in the home plate here. Good to see you. Missed you last week. It was a really good show and a lot of fun, and gave away some gifts. When you're giving away stuff, you get a lot more people to show up. So, that was the thing, and I call them out. So if you're out there and you're listening, remember that you showed up for some free stuff or some prizes and some games and stuff. So we enjoyed you. Happy New Year to you all. And Lisa, thanks for getting back in here. You didn't have as much fun or have as luck that you wish you had in last week's show, but it's all love. So we got to get you a better connection or phone or whatever the heck was going on last week. But all good, all fun. Happy New Year to you both. Danya, thanks for doing what you do in advance. Tonight's show is pretty much what should come after what we talked about last week briefly, which was, what are you looking forward to in 2023? Happy New Year's was the theme. So tonight's show is turning the page. Where did you go and what did you do that made 22 special for you? And yeah, those are things that come exactly from my mind. I act as they're original. It's little rhymes and stuff for you. So welcome to 2023. But what did you do in 2022? What was big? What was little? What was something you glad you overcame? What was something that you left behind gladly? What was the big moment? What was the thing that was like, whew, I won't forget that this happened this year. Um, something to unpack. So I know you two. I've spent some time with you guys in 2022, so I might know some of this stuff and I might not. It might be something more personal or something that I wasn't there for or privy to. So feel free to share it with the GFB audience and with me in real time. I had a little like ask this question or just say this statement and see what the response is. Since I feel like I gave a title that gave you time to reflect a little bit this time, and sometimes you guys think I catch you off guard. But if you have one, or if you think you do, give me a best moment. A lot of mine are going to probably be golf related because those are the things that just stick out. And I know that's that can be kind of lame, but yeah, I shot my lowest golf round in 2022. My lowest golf round ever was shot in 2022. Yes, I think it was a 76, and it was with the people I play with the most. So it wasn't a story I had to tell; they got to see it firsthand, and I won all the money that day. So yeah, that was the other part. So little friendly wagers and just a good time, and it was a beautiful morning in Kernersville, and I'll take that with me as just one of those things that happened last year, amongst some really awesome other stuff, which Lisa, you and I have in common, the culmination of a campaign season taking place in that calendar year, even though mine began in 2021. I think yours began in 22 and ended in 22 along with mine. So, doing something different, doing something new. What was it? If you have it, tell us about it. Bob, I know you won't mind. I'll start with the lady first. So, and then we'll get right to you. But Lisa, if you got one, a best moment or just something significant that you can share about 2022.
Oh gosh, see, I thought you was gonna go right to Bob, but yeah, and I will tell you, I've been talking about last week's show like to so many people because a lot of people know that I am an awful winner. Um, I mean, I'm relentless, but I am. I think I'm a better loser because I'm not used to losing. But um, but as I've been talking about it,
That's some interesting logic. I just wanted to say that.
so I've had to reflect a lot on, wow, what did it really feel like to lose? But I felt better because a lot of the questions and a lot of the things, I didn't have good points of reference aside from the technology issues. Okay. But to the topic of this show, gosh, I was so excited about it because 2022, as I looked at a lot of the memes and a lot of the little icons about it was the worst year ever and throw it away, da da da. It was actually the best year that I could not have imagined a better year. And the running theme for me was to push past previous. Like I've had some trepidations about different actions or moves I would make, and I'd kind of hold back. Um, maybe I don't know enough, or maybe I'm not experienced enough. Maybe this is going to be too painful, or ooh, this is painful. Stop. And I just did it. So to jump into the campaign thing, I had actually been thinking about politics for a lot of years. My first day in Civ Pro in law school, and many people, my friends from law school, have not forgotten this because they keep checking in on me. I stood up and I said I was going to be governor of North Carolina. And I'm telling you, I was like, God, why did I say that? Because they check in every once in a while. You ready to run? So it's not something that's been outside of the realm of what I've thought about, because the leadership aspect, I think I have such a level of I won't even say it's humility so much as maybe it is humility. I don't know. I know I'm capable of doing some things, but why should I want to hold who do I think I am with holding such an enormous position? And I don't even think it's the what is it, the imposter syndrome so much as you don't know enough about this, or you don't, because I don't, right? It's just certain things I don't know enough about. So, but anyway, that's a whole nother thing. But I did. And I was thrust into it because I got pissed off. I got pissed off about a personal situation I was in. And I did have about a 2-month campaign because I was like, daggone it, this system is messed up. And I need to be the one to be able to be the voice because I have these experiences and I do have enough education to be able to be an effective voice. And I didn't know the other candidates at all. I had no negative feelings about them or what their plans were. I was not running against an incumbent per se. Um, so it was literally about, I want to serve the community by making sure that we have some better things in place to protect people who are waking up at 3, 4, 5 o'clock in the morning, like I do, who do try as hard as you can try, but run up against this or run up against that, and create some yes if opportunities. Now, so part of that, me just going ahead and pulling the trigger, I did run into a lot of physical barriers, a lot of financial obstacles with that campaigning. And there were times where I was like, oh my gosh, this is too much for me as an individual person trying to do it. But that pressing through it, I just went on and did it anyway, all the way to the end. Like I did what I was capable of doing with the limitations that I had, and just made it all the way through. And I accepted the results of that. So because of certain limitations, the results were what they were. But I was super encouraged that the impact I was able to make from the limited opportunity I had, I felt good about it. And I said, well, I believe in the work. And so subsequently, in which I do need to apologize to the person who won, because this is something I did not know. And I'm going to be perfectly transparent. I did not know that I'm supposed to call that person and say, congratulations. I mean, it is what it is. And that's, you don't know what you don't know. And actually, when he won the general, Frankie T. Jones won the general, and we were at a watch party or something together, and I overheard him, or we might have been talking together, and he was like, yeah, I don't know if he's going to call me to say congratulations. I was like, oh, is that the thing? Is that what somebody's supposed to do? So I actually plan on telling Frankie, listen, I didn't mean any disrespect. I mean any harm. I just didn't know any better because I wasn't part of these circles. I just want to do the work. So that was the most enormous thing because it put me out there publicly. But there was a huge culmination of a lot of tiny things that put me outside of what I've done.
Yeah, that the moments like that are they kind of tell you and reinforce that you can do something else too. It's not there's way more barriers to be overcome than will actually limit you. You kind of limit yourself. So you're absolutely right. That's a wonderful observation. I'm going to try to remember to reconnect that with another question at some point that when we continue this evening. But yeah, that's something that I'll try to reference. Being knowing what the etiquette is. I'll try to come back to that. Bob, I want to hear from you, man. Best moment. Hey, Mary Carmen, good to see you. Still in the DR. Come back. Okay, we'll look for you next week, and I got something I want you to participate in too. Hey, Shamika, how you doing? Good to see you. Bob, what you got as far as a great moment or best moment of 22?
I'm not sure that the 22 was such an unusual year, and 22 incorporated just a tremendous number of moments. I'm not sure that I can choose one that was really a best moment. I mean, thinking about the year, I think it was a year that was, in some ways, a trickster year. And I say that because we were 2020 and 2021 were so goofy because of COVID. And we kind of thought that we were coming out of COVID and we were getting kind of normalized in early 22, and yet we kept dragging COVID with us. And then even when it felt like, okay, things can be normal again, when things opened up and when masks were now optional and all that sort of thing, what we discovered was the world wasn't like it used to be. We did not return to a pre-COVID normal. We are now in a new place, a new space, a less reliable space, an awkward space, I figured out again space, places working odd hours, open, closed, supply chain still a problem. All of this lack of reliability that I think made for its own destabilization. At the same time, we were recovering. We were, and thinking about 2022 and thinking about, gosh, think about all the things that were a part of it. And to Lisa's point, there was a lot of diving in. There was a lot of just diving in. Some of that diving in started in 2021, but whether it was campaigns or whether it was travel or it was this or it was that, there was a lot of just jumping in and doing. Thinking about 2022 and remembering, gosh, that was the heavy part of the campaign time for city council and for the mayor and for county commissioners. That was the heavy time for that. And when the elections were over for the city in late July, that might be the best day of the year because it was done. Finally, it was friggin' done. And then of course I left for Africa for a month. So that might have been the best day just by itself. Of course, I also had a grandson in February. I had my first grandson in February. So obviously that's probably the best, truthfully, the best day.
So you get to it. I like it. I like the long way around, and that's great because I know you had some good moments, Bob. To get to those, and listen, you've already answered the next question.
Okay.
Because it was what was the worst moments, and you
Okay.
kind of made a culmination.
Okay.
But no, continue though. You got to the good stuff.
So then talking about you mentioned golf for you. We went to the damn ocean course in 2022. We went to Charleston together. We had a fantastic trip. And that was just such a good time. We went, you know, Asheville trips, Charleston trips, Miami trips, all of those things were in 2022. They were all over the board and they were just jumping in and doing stuff. It was just literally just doing random stuff. And my trip to Africa, even though obviously there was a lot of lead time in preparation for that, part of that trip was just showing up, getting on a bus, riding 7 hours into Tanzania, and meeting people I'd never met and spending 2 weeks with them. I mean, that was just, again, jumping in. And so, you know, I don't know, 2022 was a teaser year. It was a trickster year in a lot of ways. I think that what it did, not only did it give us a lot of stuff to test, to try, to experience, to discover, it also, I think, set up 2023 to be a more realistic year in terms of who we are, where we sit, what our reality is. You know, we know better than ever that we don't do well with truth. We need to do well with truth. Somehow we've got to bring truth back front and center in terms of everything. And that's not going to happen with the systems that we have. It's not going to happen with the algorithms we have. It's not going to happen with the media that we have. We're going to have to do that ourselves.
Yeah.
So, go ahead.
I'll take a couple of things away from what you said that I think are critical to your overarching view of 22. We survived the years previous, and 22 was like a confirmation that it won't be COVID that takes us out.
Right.
But we can take us out if we don't start to change the course of things. I think that's a nutshell. But again, you got to the better moments, which was your grandson and which was Africa. And of course, the ocean course is something I'll never forget. A worse moment for me, which was what the next question was, and I'll come back to you, Lisa. Blowing up my round on 17, that kind of ticked me off. My buddy's phone ringing and distracting me, but you know, I get over that, man. That was a beautiful time, and spending that with you and Miss Shepard and my buddy Ron, that was awesome, and Kenny was great. You know, that was, have a bag, man, was great. But look, man, I kind of want to jump ahead because of something that Lisa said in the dealings with the campaign, and again, the decorum or the way that you're supposed to conduct yourself. Another question besides what was the worst moment was what did you overcome? And you can kind of mix that up, Lisa, when I come to you. But to your point, being consistent and cordial was something that I don't have to categorize it as an overcome thing, but it was something I maintained. I made sure I could stay consistent in my behaviors, especially on the campaign trail, especially in interacting with so many people and other politicians, and being cordial. So yeah, I did send a message to my opponent once it was over, once it was decided. Just for one, I kind of knew to do that, but for two, uh, things continue, and you and I both know there's no benefits in maintaining some type of elevated begrudging, and there was never begrudging for me anyway. That's why I was always cordial. I was never disrespectful. I spoke to the topics when they came about. So overcoming anything, I guess the way I wanted to answer it for those purposes was to incorporate just being consistent and cordial. My messaging was consistent. So overcoming being misunderstood in a broader capacity, because my stuff began in 21 and I saw how easily people could try to critique or uh, intentionally misconstrue what you were about during that process. So being consistent and cordial was paramount for me. I was not out to sling mud. And however I get that into the overcome dynamic, I just do, because it's easy to be dirty. It's easy to be a vindictive and mean-spirited person. That's not productive in my mind. So I guess overcoming the potential of that is something I think 2022 allowed for me to just maintain a certain level of respectability. And I think it's done something for me and for those that know me. So Lisa, any worst moment or any something you overcame in 22?
So what's amazing is I had a lot of awful things happen. Um, um, my aunt died, my mother's oldest sister. And that was very debilitating in a sense, because I lost what I deemed my last connection to get to know my mother, because she was the oldest, and she was the keeper of all the family information. And so it was like I wasn't just losing my aunt, who I did not know that well to begin with, but I was also losing my mother again. And that happened in February. And then in March, I had this severe financial blow that just it was super financially devastating, and I had to make some adjustments quickly, and be okay with the adjustments, even though it really was not okay. It really uh so I'm gonna use the word devastated, yet it didn't devastate me. It devastated the things I had worked on and built for so many years to come back and be so that I was proud of, and I'm still proud of. But I had to, there's just things you've got to do that makes the most sense, right? That was in March. So that's actually what precipitated me running for office. And then the loss wasn't even that, it didn't even move me, honestly, because one of the reasons is because I had committed to this healthiness and wholeness journey, and part of it was devoting wholeheartedly to a relationship with God, and understanding and accepting that God had all the power, and if he wanted me in the seat, I'd have been in the seat. So actually literally succumbing to that, where I woke up the next morning feeling fine, like, and it was so shocking, but I did feel like really fine. And but it helped me feel even better about continuing on. Like, okay, this was, I made it through that, and it was cool. Then an awful situation with my family. My father on my birth certificate, father I knew for all of my life till I was 16, and then found out it was another person who actually fathered me. For the first time in 30 years, he literally told me I was not his child in June. That was devastating to go through that emotional wow that actually came out. And it was really awful how it came out. Then my son left to go to the military. My third child, my ride or die. I love all my kids. Okay. And if you ask my kids, they'll tell you my number 1, my number 3, or my number 5 are my favorites. That's what they'll tell you. My number 3, Jeremy, he was just an alpha male, like from the womb. He was an OG and wasn't even raised in the hood, right? But in my darkest times, he was always like right there, like, you know, don't worry about nobody, da da da. And I'm about to get teary again. Like, y'all see me. I think I even cried on the show one time. He left to go to the military, and he left me his truck, and I'm riding around singing I drive your truck country songs. Like, that was awful. Like, but then it was great, because that means, okay, you did a good job, that your kids feel confident enough about going out to the wild blue yonder. But that was still awful. So it's like a lot of big things all over the year, but I didn't fall into these dark places, because like I said, I committed to a healthiness and wholeness journey. I shake some toxic people out of my space, so even if they creep in sometimes, I'm confident, like getting my fly swatter, like, wait a minute, nope, you know, and taking care of me, whatever that means, right? So if I drive my son's truck for a week and I'm crying like crazy, then I'm taking care of me. I'm his mama. And that's the guy that when I got assaulted, he showed up at Macy's and he told the police, nope, she's done talking. And he took me home, right? So that's the guy that's like, when I was facing homelessness and he was 15 years old, and I said, we might have to live in a hotel. And I love my son, Jared, but he like, I'm going to stay with my daddy. Jeremy's like, mama, wherever you're at, like, I'm gonna be with you wherever you are. So it's like, and even now, he was the one who was cutting my grass. But anyway, so it was a lot of really what the society would deem devastating things to happen, but I didn't go anywhere like I had gone in the past with if one or two of those things would have happened. And for that alone, like, I'm like, oh my gosh, like, you are actually, this journey is actually helping. You are different. So it was some awful things. And to your point about, and I'm good with the fact that, hey, I didn't know because I wasn't politically nurtured. I didn't know because nobody tell me. And that's cool. I can own that. And like I said, once I figured it out and I had this little light bulb moment, I'm going to get with Frankie and I'm going to tell him, I have no problems being this level of old and saying what I didn't know. And I'm sorry that I did something that may be deemed disrespectful, but I'm not a disrespectful person.
No, and honestly, I would say I've seen you in the same spaces already with your former opponent, and I don't think he'll lose any. I don't think he's lost any sleep, and I don't think he'll hold anything against you. Bob, coming right to you, man, and great stuff, great shares. Lisa's, you probably got ahead to the last question, but I think it's still an answer in there to be had. So we'll work our way back through that. Let's see what Mary Carmen says really quickly. Best of 22 for me was finally finishing settling in my house. Took her a whole year. Being the first vice president Hispanic woman of the Human Relations Commission and first Hispanic president of the Appearance Commission of the city of Reedsville. My small business survived COVID and last first missionary trip. What a year. Yeah. Yeah. Awesome, Mary Carmen. I look forward to catching up with you when you get back, and hopefully you can participate in something at the end of the month I'm doing that is RELC related. I think I have your email, Mary Carmen. If I don't, please don't send it here because it's public, but reach out to me. You should have my email via this NC100 stuff. So just give me your email if I don't have it already. Bob, worst moments or something you overcame, or just take us to something significant in 22. Maybe I know you had a lot, and I agree. 2022 was just a weird rebound type, but not quite fully rebounded year. So I get it. But what you got?
Yeah, I think that and Lisa touched, didn't just touch. She delved deeply into this. Something about 2022. Let us try things and it not and them not turn out as we wanted or hoped or thought, and yet we dealt with it. And so resiliency is something that I think we might have gained a good bit from in 2022. Lisa ran for office, you ran for office. I didn't, but I was involved with a lot of people running for office, all of whom did not win. And that's troubling. It's frustrating. I mean, whether I'm the one that's running or whether the person that I care about, that I believe in, is running, we're still losing, right? So we had, from that perspective, a complete lost season. And there's a lot of that's it. And the disappointing thing is, from my perspective, that we had such good, well-intended, legitimate alternative candidates for offices that could have changed the trajectory of this city in such a positive way. And yet the city, those that voted for the status quo. And that's really troubling. That's really, really troubling. How is it that a city with as many complaints from as many directions as we have in this city, a city with so much potential, to have such a good array of candidates to make what the city says it wants happen, and yet the city, the people in the city, vote to keep the same people doing what they've continued to fail to do for all of these years. I mean, okay, so
I'm getting ready to pull us away from that politics stuff, Bob. I know. Yeah,
I'm at the end point of that, but I'm just saying. I think that was if you kind of can compress that into the worst thing of the year, for me that was it, because it's disappointing on so many levels. And I'll say this lastly. It affects me personally not at all. It affects me from a values perspective relative to this city and to a lot of people in this city that I care about. It does not affect me personally other than that at all. And so, yeah, but I think that we gained, I think a lot of what a lot of us did failed in 2022. We didn't accomplish what we entered activities and initiatives and so forth to accomplish. And did we overcome that, or did we simply deal with it? I don't think we needed to overcome it. I think that we found ourselves having the health of self and spirit to deal with it and be okay with it and put it in perspective.
I'm going to skip this next one and go to the last one and come back to the other one, because and those are the questions, because you just landed in a place that I think speaks directly to the question of how did you get stronger in 2022 for, I think, myself as a candidate. And I don't want to make this all about the campaign and election and politics, but I get the gravity of what you're communicating, Bob. It was disappointing. It was discouraging, and it was at points a missed opportunity. But getting stronger from it, is something that I like to think I did. Not because it was, some heavy lift. It was a journey, and it was a long one in my case. It was super long. It was very repetitive. If you know me, I don't like to repeat myself a lot, but you have to in that circumstance. But the resiliency that you mentioned, something I give my students a lot of credit for over the last couple of years dealing with COVID and still doing whatever is required in coursework and putting forth their best effort. That's what we did. We didn't present half. We presented the whole, and we told it like it was. We gave opportunity and we gave breadth. So now I got to go into the other question because that's the thing that I wanted to get out there also. So it'll be two questions when I come back around to you guys. Just keep them in mind. So how did I get stronger? That's one of the ways. But who did you meet in 22? Bob, I met countless people in Greensboro because of that campaign. I knocked on doors and did canvassing and got to meet people that I would not get to interact with on a normal basis. And I heard from them, I talked to them, I engaged with them. And it was a wonderful experience. So some of them I'll not recall names, but I also met people in person who I interacted with in this space. And Jay Dwayne's one of them. Unfortunately, he couldn't make it tonight, but that was a great encounter. So who did you meet in 22? And just to throw it in there because, we get the jambalaya remix sometimes. What made you stronger in 22? I'm going to start with Bob this time. At least I'm coming to you to pretty much wrap us up. But Bob, what you got as far as who did you meet and what made you stronger?
Well, I think that the election thing to me was just a layer of the year. It was not the big part of it. Was just a layer. It was just a layer for many of us for the year of 2022. And like you, I met a lot of people through that process. I learned a lot through that process. We also have this thing we call a decent conversation. That was an interactive time. This was an interactive time for the entirety of 2022, which is meeting people and interacting with people. I met people in East Africa that I communicate with every day at this point, and they'll be visiting here this in 2023. So all of that, there was a whole lot of genuine meeting of people. And of course, I'm a native of Greensboro, so you think I know a lot of people, and I do. But in 2022, I really met a lot of new people from different places, from different circumstances, from different experiences, and so forth in a very genuine and legitimate way. And that might be, back to your first question, the best thing of the year. Was that? I don't know. A lot of good happened, like I said, but I think that the different things that we were doing, the disruption that we have been through, disruption always creates new opportunity. You just got to look at it as new opportunity. And so all of the things that we're talking about tonight, I think probably, the meeting of the people and the meeting of new people on solid ground where it's legitimate. It's not because of business. It's not because you're in school together. It's not because of this or that or the other thing. It's not because you're greasing palms. It's because you're meeting people and getting to know them for who they are, because you are. And that's all there is to it. And that's the best way to meet people. That's the best way to develop relationships. That's the best way to build your life.
So would you say meeting people made you stronger? Is that
gosh, yes.
Okay. Yeah, I totally agree with that sentiment. I think just countless encounters and meaningful ones and new relationships were formed, and some were strengthened, which, you can meet people anew throughout the course of knowing them. You can meet somebody even though you know them. So yeah,
And
I
and
totally agree with that. Go
and,
ahead.
and one last comment. Anything that adds to your resiliency makes you stronger.
Yeah, man. And yeah, I think 2022 provided just enough of a thaw in our ability to associate with one another, that you got to encounter and appreciate that walk on the trail and running into somebody and talking to them, or in the grocery store, and uh, just having a moment. I was in the grocery store yesterday, and the lady was like, gosh, I can't find peanut butter or something. And it was just a moment of, hey, yeah, I can't find anything anymore. May have happened previous to COVID, but it's a different type of feel now, to have a interaction with a stranger. So yeah, but again, to those people I met on the campaign trail, to the people I've met since that level of activity and visibility in the city, um, some real meaningful interactions, and I'm grateful. Uh, and yeah, that definitely makes me stronger, makes you resilient, makes you resourceful. Um, just it just does. It builds you. So Lisa, I think you're gonna have enough to say that might take us to the end game of tonight. But yeah, who did you meet and what made you stronger?
I'm so excited. These are great questions and opportunities, Felton. And I got to meet in person the people in these squares, and it was just phenomenal to be able to actually lay my eyes on the people after seeing you guys in these squares. Bob is an amazing person. Jay Dwayne, even Merrill, even Julia and Greg, and it's just been remarkable. And then Michael, but even on the campaign trail, I just engage people all the time anyway. But that wasn't even like a thing for me. The most in contrast to meeting people, who did I meet? Um, it's what was I able to do with people that was the most impactful to me, and it's actually what made me stronger too. It enhanced what my purpose for living. So an example of that is some of the people that I actually already knew. I was able, because of this new commitment and this new just try it and just push, connect people to opportunities that otherwise they may not have had. So, for instance, Kim Irby, who is a school board representative, she sent out a text when some kids were out of school. It's like, oh, do you want to? People want to see Wakanda Forever. So I reached out to. She rented out a theater or something, and so I reached out to this church that I'm on the prayer call and said, "Got any students?" So they have a food ministry. So when they came there, I mean, just organically, I had met Amanda Cook while she was campaigning and things. And I just introduced Amanda Cook to this other person from this church and said, they do, they feed. And then she ran for school board, yada, yada, yada. And through that organic connection, Amanda Cook and she got a friend of hers actually donated to their food ministry, right? So that like strengthened me. Like my oldest son calls me a super advocate, right? That just strengthened me to keep being who I am. So this other person, that's not something that would have even been in their realm. And then Amanda, they wouldn't engage any other time. Okay. But it wasn't even about me. It's like, oh, meet Amanda. And then recently, two other people, two Black men who have had a history that is a little more colorful. I sent out invitations for them to apply for the Police Citizens Academy. And then I contacted the people who are choosing or whatever and said, hey, these are some people that I've suggested, whatever. And these men, like they're really changed people. And I did it being me. Like that Black people have issues with police, right? Everybody know this. So one of what I saw after I've been engaged in community is get in here, find out how this works, and let people know what the issue is, right? You can't know, the others don't know what your experience is if they don't know your experience. So anyway, I saw that to say that was my main thing with pushing this information out to people who otherwise don't know it's existing and otherwise have not been invited to participate in such. So these two men, and they're like over the moon excited that they're going to be participating in this opportunity. And I've just been strengthened in because that's just who I have been equipped to be. So that's what has made the most difference. And that's just two of the most recent examples, but that just happened all year that helped me be more comfortable with what I do naturally in the spaces that I'm blessed to be able to be at.
So I'll say this for the three of us because it applies. The strength that we were able to garner in 22 is directly connected to purposefulness. I know that for a fact from you two and myself included. And I think that's how we should continue our walk, to try to be purposeful. Yeah, good share out there again, Lisa. That I think one of the most beautiful things is when you finally come to the realization, and this applies to 2022, 2032, 2072. You cannot have this without that. The connectivity is completely worthy of your acknowledgement. So you can't have this great outcome without having overcame something or dealt with some measure of adversity. And they are connected. There is no disjointedness. People give, some credibility to happenstance or serendipitous moments. I do that. But you still had to get up. And you still had to go to that place. And you still had to run into that person. And literally, if you were doing what you were doing 2 years ago, you may have not been allowed to have that serendipitous moment. It is all connected. Be appreciative of each and every moment we have, even the worst ones.
And if
Yeah,
I can add about the intentionality, okay, because none of this stuff is about me, right? But if you hear about the crime in our Black community, right, and then you have Black men over here who can be impactful in helping to solve our issues, well, that just makes sense. Let's get them to get some of the information and be able to share and be a part of the development of helping to positively impact our community. That's the and you're probably going to ask this question, but that's the thing that most dismays me, if that's a word, is that it appears that some people, and I always say jokingly, why you want to keep it a secret? Like, that's not hard. If you know that it's some Black men, and these are grown Black men in their 50s, 60s, whatever, who are in the circles with the people, with some people who they have points of reference, they're not going to listen to the white police officer coming over here, right? Because what you know. So I don't understand how some people who have these opportunities to connect people who otherwise wouldn't be connected, who can help create changes in our community with Black people. Bob know I love him, but we need to be a part of our solution. And if you already have a key to the door, darn it, let somebody in that could help solve our problems.
Again, specificity. I mean, intentionality. Purposefulness. All of those things apply, and it's a both and equation for me. If I tell you about this wonderful deal down the street, buy one get one free, and what have you, and you don't go do it, and then you see somebody else who has it, and you badgering them about why or how, or you got the information. Go pull the trigger. Go do whatever it takes to make whatever you're desiring to happen take place. Be a part of the solution, and that goes across the board. And that's a human thing. I don't have to, center the Black community, and you guys know I'm about recentering Black Americans, but that's for the overarching goal of us all being better. Everybody. That helps everything. That's a whole nother conversation. You know I'll go there, but I don't want to go there because that's a whole. We can do so much better together. I mean, completely understanding of this group needs a special level of attention. Let's all give it to them. Once we get that lifted up and fixed and repaired, then we can look around and see what else. But we have so much left, so much work left here that we did not finish, that we never truly stayed with to finish and fix. And that's something we got to be honest with ourselves about. That's that honesty thing Bob was referencing earlier. We got to be honest about that. That way we can do something about it that is magnanimous, beautiful, and benefits us all as a whole. And we're working on that too. That's some 2022 stuff, or actually before that, but we're working on some stuff that we're gonna bring out and hopefully get some support for and move the needle. I want to thank my two guests, Lisa and Bob. Appreciate you guys as always. Danya, always thankful for what you do in the space and keeping us going and flowing. And it's a smooth ride when you're at the wheel, man. So I appreciate it. Everyone have a wonderful night. Welcome to 2023. Hope this is good to you and me as anything else. Every day you get another opportunity to get more right than you got wrong yesterday. So let's just keep that in mind and let's keep going. Be purposeful. And thank you all for your support, for listening. Mary Carmen, thank you.